Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, entitled Parikshit Cursed by a Brahmana Boy, verse number 36. Ityuktva roshatam raksho vayasyan rishibalaka kaushikya upasprishya vagvajram visasarjaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Shri Prabhupada. Translation. The son of the Rishi, his eyes red hot with anger, touched the water of the river Kaushika while speaking to his playmates and discharged the following thunderbolt of words. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Shri Prabhupada. The circumstances under which Maharaj Parikshit was cursed were simply childish. As it appears from this verse, Shringi was showing his impudency amongst his playmates who were innocent. Any sane man would have prevented him from doing such great harm to all human society. By killing a king like Maharaj Parikshit just to make a show of acquired Brahmanical power, the inexperienced son of a Brahmana committed a great mistake. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Sangat sanjayate kama, kamat krodho bijayate. These are Krishna's words where he is talking about the origin of anger. Sangat sanjayate kama. Krishna is saying, Dhyayato vishyan pumsa sangasteshu bhajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodho bijayate. When one is contemplating on the objects of the senses, then one develops attachment. And then from that attachment, one develops an eagerness to enjoy the sense object, kama. Kama is a desire to enjoy for one's sense enjoyment. And when that kama, that desire for sense enjoyment, is frustrated due to whatever reasons, that results in krodha, anger. So we are seeing here in this verse, Shringi, the Brahmana boy, son of Shamika Rishi, out of anger, Rosha Tamra Akshaha, with red hot eyes due to being angry, he is about to curse Maharaj Parikshit. So to give a background of this verse, after the battle of Kurukshetra, Maharaj Yudhishthira Maharaj, he ruled as the emperor of the whole planet. And then, as by Krishna's intervention, the sole descendant of the Kuru Vamsha, Parikshit Maharaj, was saved in the womb of Uttara. Ashwathama had made an attempt to destroy the only progeny, the only descendant of the Kuru Vamsha, and by her fervent prayers, Krishna reciprocated and protected the grandchild of Arjuna, who was the son of Abhimanyu. And Yudhishthira Maharaj personally arranged for his various samskaras, and he was very eager to see what are the qualities of the descendant who is coming in our line. And he was very glad to know that this boy, Parikshit, is going to be, he is a Mahabhagavata, and he will administer dharma on this planet. And so brought him up with great love and affection and arranged for all possible training for his grandson. And at the right time, when he was grown up, Maharaj Yudhishthir, following the lines of all the Rajarishis, he voluntarily retired from the royal throne and set, along with all the Pandava brothers, he went off to Himalayas and enthroned Parikshit Maharaj as the successor, emperor of the planet, and he retired. Parikshit Maharaj, true to the fame of all the glorious Kuru kings, he reigned over this planet with great courage, with great devotion, surrender and dependence on Lord Krishna. And we hear about the pastimes which have just gone by of how he chased Kali Purusha, who came in the disguise of a king and was seen by Maharaj Parikshit, giving trouble to a cow and a bull. And so we see how Maharaj Parikshit challenged Kali Purusha, and Kali Purusha surrendered. And so like that, many glorious activities, he reigned on this planet very gloriously. And and during his time and also the previous time, Hastinapur was the capital for the entire planet. So he ruled there was one flag, there was one king, one emperor. There were many kings who were all subordinate to the emperor. So one fine day, he was out on a hunting excursion, as it is usual for Kshatriyas. And on that particular day, he was extremely thirsty, extremely hungry, and he was feeling very tired, and he wanted to drink some water, and he was looking for some place where he can get some water. So he saw the hermitage of Shamika Rishi, the father of Shringi, and he entered the hermitage, hoping that he will get a glass of water. Shamika Rishi was absorbed in penance, he was in meditation, and he was in trance. And so he was unable to extend a welcome to the king. And by the divine arrangement of the Lord, the whole thing was a pastime of the Lord. Unfortunately, and in a way that was completely unprecedented in the character of Parikshit Maharaj, he felt insulted that he was not afforded a cordial welcome. And in anger, which is also very unusual, in anger towards his sage, he placed the dead skin of a snake around his neck and walked away. So when this news reached Shringi, who was the son of this Brahmana, that the emperor had insulted his father by placing the skin of a dead snake around his neck, he became enraged. And then as a result of that anger, we are seeing this verse, he is now going to pronounce a shapa, a curse. And as a result, in fact, in the coming verses, we will see, he goes on to curse the king that he shall die in 7 days from now. He will be bitten to death by takshaka, a snake bird. So this is very unfortunate that such a saintly king like Maharaj Parikshit is going to be at the receiving end of a Brahmana's curse. In fact, it is to be noted that the very fact that the Brahmanical culture was flourishing was because of the protection afforded by Maharaj Parikshit. He was very devoted to the Brahmanas. He was very devoted to maintaining the pillars of dharma, ensuring that the citizens very strictly they follow the pillars of dharma so that everybody can live peacefully. It is interesting to note that if not for the pious and righteous rule of kings like Maharaj Parikshit, there is also a record of what was the state of the society under the rule of demoniac kings. There's a mention of how during the reign of kings like Vena, kings like Hiranyakashipu, who were completely against the Brahmanical culture. They were persecuting all the Brahmanas, they were persecuting all the Vaishnavas, they were destroying places of worship, they were stopping all the yajnas. So this is how they were conducting. And there was no possibility of raising, even for Shringi to be trained by his father as a brahmachari, to acquire this kind of a Brahma Tejas, so much so that he has the power even to punish the emperor. This was possible by the blessings of a saintly king like Maharaj Parikshit. So this boy doesn't realize the consequence of what it would mean for the humanity in general when they are devoid of the protection of a king like Maharaj Parikshit. Nevertheless, it was all we will see many as how the incidents unfold, but all of this is well within the larger plan of the Lord to arrange for the Srimad Bhagavat Puran to be spoken by Shukdev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj, through which the entire humanity can benefit. So much so that today we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam as a result of all this turn of events. It is interesting to note the effect of anger that influenced this Brahmana boy. Krishna talks about the origin of anger in many places. And Krishna says, Kama esha, Krodha esha, Rajo Guna samudbhava, Mahashano Mahapapma Vidhyanam Ihavairinam. Kama esha, Krodha esha, Rajo Guna samudbhava. These feelings of kama, krodha, they have their origin in the mode of passion, rajoguna. So it is the any sane man, any sane person who wants to overcome the influence of rajoguna, which leads to a variety of consequences. it is described about what are the symptoms of a person in Rajo Guna. A person who is driven by, in fact, we also saw in this song which the devotees sang very wonderfully, composed by Srila Prabhupada, that he is saying, I am going to America where people are completely influenced by Rajo Guna and Tamo Guna. How am I going to impress upon this message of yours? And he's seeking the blessings of the Lord so that he can spread the message amongst these people who are under the influence of Rajo Guna, Tamo Guna. So we just heard that a while ago. So what are the symptoms? The symptoms are a person who is conducted by the mode of passion. They are full of unlimited material desires. So many desires for material enjoyment. And to accomplish this material desires, they work very, very hard. Intense endeavor, intense effort to fulfill their material desires. And as a consequence of that, never satisfied. Even if you achieve something, you want more, no satisfaction. This is hankering, greed, lobha, and so on. So these are all the symptoms of a person who is conducted by Rajoguna. And so if someone is looking at anger management, one should look at how one can address this problem at the root, which is how one can overcome the influence of Rajoguna. By taking up this practice of Krishna consciousness, by taking to devotion service, engaging in the service of a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, engaging in his service, one automatically transcends all the gunas. Krishna is saying, the material energy of the Lord, she spreads her influence through these three gunas. Krishna is saying, Devi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mamevaye Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. One can cross over the influence of all the material modes of material nature simply by surrendering to Krishna. Devi Hesh, but otherwise on our own efforts one cannot overcome the modes. They are very, very powerful. By one's own strength, one's own endeavor, it is impossible. That's why Krishna is saying, Mamevaye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. Only if you surrender to the Lord through the spiritual master, then we can cross over. So if you see the practice of Krishna consciousness, it is a solution to all kinds of problems, not just anger management. That is just one offshoot. So that is why a devotee does not try to address individually the problems. Okay, I need to address greed, I need to address anger, I need to address envy, I need to address this. No, that is not our approach. Our approach is how one can be absorbed completely in the service of the pure devotee. How one can take up Krishna consciousness. That is the solution to all the undesirable qualities that we may have. That is the way to approach. And we can understand this in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is said, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavata kinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate sura harau abhaktasya kuto mahat gunad manorathena sati dhavato bhai. So it is said, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat akinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate surah. All the divine qualities that is found in the devatas, that will manifest in whom? Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat akinchana. unto one who has devoted himself in the loving service of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Simply by engaging in devotion service, Sarvair Gunair. That means all good qualities, all desirable qualities will manifest. This is what Bhagavatam is saying. So, that is how relevant and potent is this path of Krishna consciousness. It's just like before they're able to do any culture and identify which particular bacteria or microorganism is causing a particular infection, what do the doctors give? They give a broad spectrum antibiotic. That medicine will take care of all kinds of bacteria, gram-negative, gram-positive, all kinds of, it will take care. It is one solution for all kinds of problem that might be there. So this is something like that. And although this is a great solution, it has to be, for us to derive the benefit, it is important that we pursue this path with sincerity and seriousness. It's overcoming all these influence of gunas is not a small deal. Great tapasvis, they are struggling to overcome the influence of these modes. So we find in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a narration about the Kumaras. Who are the four Kumaras? Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, Sanat Kumara. They are the first children of Brahma. So it is said, these Kumaras, they were situated on the platform of goodness, very elevated in their tapasya, very elevated in their understanding. They were Brahmavadis. They were situated in the platform of impersonal realization, which means they were not blessed to have a personal conception of the absolute truth. They were transcendentalists, but they were not devotees. They were not bhakti yogis. They were Brahmavadis. They were not offenders like Mayavadis. But still, they were on the impersonal conception. So they were traveling. They would travel across the material sky, go to different planets, across the spiritual sky. So one day, they happened to visit one of the Vaikuntha planets. This narration comes in the context of the demigods taking shelter of Lord Brahma. When they find the entire universe is being covered with darkness and they're wondering what is going on, so they approach Lord Brahma. And then Lord Brahma is trying to explain to them why this darkness is there. It is because there is going to be very soon the birth of two great demons. So in that context, he gives the example, he gives the background of how these demons came to be born, or how they entered, how they took shelter in the womb of Diti. So Kumaras, they wanted to explore the Vaikuntha planet. So when they entered the Vaikuntha planet, so they were very, very thrilled. They experienced great joy and happiness just by being present in the Supreme Lord's abode. And they witnessed the great opulence of Vaikuntha. They saw there were devotees who were flying in aeroplanes which were made of emeralds, gold, lapis lazuli, different kinds of gems. And they were all very, very, their bodily features, men and women, they were very, very beautiful. And how everybody was absorbed in singing the glories from the bumblebee to the birds. All of them were absorbed in devotional service to the Supreme Lord. So they were witnessing all of that, and they were eager to have a personal audience of the Supreme Lord, Narayana. And so they were already feeling very overwhelmed with joy just by being in that abode. And so they were passing through various doors. They passed first door, second door, third door, 6 doors they passed. Nobody stopped them. The 7th door, which would lead the way into the residence of the Lord, was guarded by Jaya and Vijaya. And they were extremely eager to pass through the 7th door and have a personal audience with Narayana. And all these 4, so as they were just about to enter, like they entered all the other 6 doors, to their surprise and shock, they were stopped by Jaya and Vijaya. And these Jaya Vijaya, they were 2 personalities, very having 4 hands, bluish complexion, just like the Lord, decorated with various ornaments, holding gadha. And they were both of same age, young, because in the spiritual world everybody is Nava Yauvanam, like the Lord. There is no old age in the spiritual world. Everybody is young, eternally young. So when they were stopped by Jaya and Vijaya, the Kumaras, they felt hurt. They have never experienced such a reception, and they never expected that they would experience this in the spiritual sky, where there is no envy, where there is no hatred. So they were wondering, how come these people have stopped us? We have completely devoted ourselves, and quite rightly so. They were very, very exalted Brahmanas, and they shouldn't have been stopped. So out of that disappointment and great eagerness, they became bitten by the serpent of anger. And then they decided amongst themselves that these 2 persons they have stopped us from entering inside, and therefore we must punish them. And in anger, they cursed these two great devotees in the Vaikuntha. They cursed them that they shall return back to the material world. And so Jaya Vijay, when they heard this, they were shocked, for the reason that they would lose the opportunity to engage in the service of their beloved Lord. So they fell down at the feet of these Brahmanas and said, yes, we have done a mistake. And we can appreciate the qualities of Jaya Vijaya. And in anxiety they said, let your words be true. And we don't mind going to the material world, but please, let us not be covered by the illusion of forgetfulness of our dear Lord. This is how they prayed. So all this was going on, and when the Lord realized that the Kumaras they were upset, and Jaya Vijaya, his dear personal servants, had been cursed, so immediately the Lord rushed. He came on his Garuda Vahana, and he, along with Lakshmi Devi, his eternal consort, and he came to that exact location to take stock of the situation. And so that was the first time that the Kumaras were having a personal audience of Narayana. For the first time. Till then they were able to perceive the Lord within their heart, but they had never seen him face to face. So when they saw the Lord face to face, they were in great ecstasy. And they offer wonderful prayers to glorify the Lord. And so after they complete offering their respects and their prayers, the Lord begins to talk. And it's very touching to see the Lord, on behalf of his devotees, Jaya Vijaya. So he says that, yes, it is certainly unacceptable that my servants have offended you, and because they are my servants as their master, I am responsible for this. And your words must definitely, they must come to be true. Let your words be true. Let them go back to the material world. But, and this is the Lord's statement, and he's addressing the Kumaras, and he's saying, but please, I would appreciate it as a great favor if you can ensure that they will very soon finish their material sentence, their term of imprisonment, punishment in the material world, and they will come back to me quickly. So the Lord is anxious, and he's requesting the Kumaras that you please let your words be true, but you please ensure that they will come back to me quickly, because they're very dear to me. So we can see the Lord's anxiety for his devotees. And hearing these words of the Lord, the Kumaras, being in that personal audience of Narayana, hearing these words of Lord and his concern for his devotees, they realized that they did a mistake by acting out of anger and cursing Jaya Vijaya. And they very humbly, they seek for forgiveness. And they ask Narayana that whatever you decide is best for Jaya and Vijaya, may that happen. And whatever you think is appropriate as a punishment for us, let that happen. So they were also very repentant, and they were also asking for forgiveness. And then the Lord clarifies that this whole thing was ordained by me, and both Jaya Vijaya, they shall go to the material world, and in the material world they shall worship me in the mood of anger. They would be my sworn enemies, and despite being my enemies, they will constantly be thinking of me, although inimically, and in that way they'll become purified and they'll quickly come back to me. So the Lord reveals his plan of how he actually desired this whole thing to happen. So we can see even such great personalities who had the qualification to enter Vaikuntha, They were not freed from the influence of, although they were situated in the mode of goodness. It is described that till that point in time they were impersonalists. But when they had the personal darshan of the Lord, and it is said when the fragrance of the tulasi leaves which were placed on the lotus feet of Narayana, when the fragrance from these tulsi leaves entered into the nostrils of these Kumaras, their conception of impersonalism changed and they became devotees. So, what I'm trying to share is that even such exalted personalities who were situated in the mode of goodness, living in performing great tapasya, who had the opportunity to even enter into the spiritual sky, even they were not free from the influence of this Rajo Guna. They came under the sway of anger. So it is not a small deal. Overcoming the modes, it requires great tapasya. However, by the blessings of Srila Prabhupada, he assures that one who devotes himself to Krishna consciousness very seriously and very sincerely, in this one lifetime, you can become freed from all this influence of lower modes and go back to Godhead. So that is Srila Prabhupada's assurance, and that is these statements of Prabhupada, they are a great source of hope for sadhakas like us, that it is possible. What was not possible for great sages like Kumaras, that is possible for ordinary people like us by the blessings of Mahabhagavata, pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada. Also, it is helpful to note that this feeling of anger in itself is not entirely condemnable. It also has a place. This anger also can be utilized in the service of the Lord. So we find many great examples. Engaging one's anger towards somebody who is blaspheming the devotees of the Lord. Engaging one's anger towards those who blaspheme the Supreme Lord. That is not condemned. That is also a service. Like we find in the case of Bhakta Hanuman. So Bhakta Hanuman was enraged. How dare this rascal, Ravana, he takes away Mother Sita from my dear Lord? I shall teach him a lesson. So although he went on a mission to find Mother Sita, and after finding her, he set fire. He was in great rage, and he set fire to entire Lanka. And still he is worshipped. So that display of anger, that rage by Bhakta Hanuman is glorified, because it was in the service of Ramachandra. When Srila Prabhupada was traveling across, visiting many centers, so he happened to be in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles temple, Rukmini Dwarakadish. He had installed the deities Rukmini Dwarakadish, and his disciples, they had established a center and they were conducting preaching activities. So Prabhupada was, it is in the state of California in US. So Prabhupada was, when he was present, the disciples used to invite some eminent guests and some important personalities so that the leaders, so that they can get to know about Krishna consciousness from the founder himself. So there was one professor who had come from California Institute of Technology, Caltech, and so the devotee arranged for him to have darshan with Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada was sitting in the temple room, and he was just in front of Rukmini Dwarakadish in the temple hall, and this gentleman was brought, and he introduced himself. So Prabhupada was sitting, and he was chanting on his beads, and so this person. He introduced himself. He said, I'm a professor from Caltech University, and I have studied Vedanta. I appreciate your teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, chanting, dancing. I see what your disciples are doing. I appreciate. But when one further goes into the depth of Vedanta, then one appreciates that the Supreme Absolute Truth is impersonal. Form becomes formless. So he was trying to share his understanding of impersonalism with the founder Acharya of the Hare Krishna movement. So Prabhupada was hearing him, and he was chanting. And then, so he was going on saying, trying to quote different references from different Vedic literatures that he knew of, and trying to present his point of view. And so while he was sharing his thoughts, so Prabhupada was chanting, having darshan deities. So then he said, "Are you finished?" So he got a sense, maybe there is something coming in now. So then he went on for some more time, then he stopped. Then after that, Prabhupada being a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, who completely understands, he is Bhaktivedanta Swami. One who understands, he is awarded the title because he is an embodiment of pure devotion and also Vedanta, one who knows the essence of all Vedic literatures, Bhaktivedanta. One who is completely well versed with the science of Vedanta. And so he waited for this gentleman to finish his talk and his presentation. And then after that, Prabhupada was enraged to hear him speak, minimizing the position of the Supreme Personality, minimizing the position of the Bhagavata Dharma. And then Prabhupada was, and this is recalled by Badrinarayan Prabhu and few others, and he says, in this Upanishad, in this Vedanta Sutra, in this Samhita, it is said like this, it is said like that. So Prabhupada was very, very forcefully, he was presenting the conclusions to this professor. And the devotees recall, as this professor was hearing these various statements which Prabhupada is quoting from the Upanishads, from the Puranas, from the Samhitas, from the Vedanta Sutra, this professor understood that he is no match. And he who was standing a while ago started kneeling down. And it looked like as though if he would have melted, he would have melted in the floor. And then when Prabhupada finished, he said, "Do you have any further questions?" And this person already, he was humbled by Prabhupada's forceful presentation, and he said, "Swamiji, can we have some kirtans, please?" So he had actually come to minimize the position of kirtan by saying that all this is all sentimental. What you should be actually doing is studying Vedanta Sutra and meditating on the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. And then after this brief exchange and after hearing this fiery words from Srila Prabhupada, he was humbled. So like this we see anger also has its place. When it is dovetailed in the service of the Lord, when it is dovetailed to against blasphemy towards devotees or blasphemy towards the Supreme Lord, it has a place. But otherwise, so we can see in this verse, this Shringi, this Brahmana boy, coming under the sway of anger and just about to pronounce a curse on Maharaj Parikshit. So to summarize what we just discussed is Sangat sanjayate kama, kamat krodho bijayate. Krishna is saying, Rajo Guna samudbhava, that this anger is a result of the lower mode of passion. And the solution to come out of not just anger but all of the influence of all material gunas which manifest in various ways is to take up to this path of Krishna consciousness. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavata kinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate suraha. Just by engaging, there is no need to address these things individually. Just by taking up to this practice of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, one can overcome all these limitations we may have. All these limitations. And so it is very important that we engage our time, engage our energy in pursuing Krishna consciousness very sincerely and seriously. So that in this one lifetime, as assured by the Acharya, in this one lifetime, one can attain the perfection of going back home, back to Godhead. So with that, I will stop. If there are any questions, maybe one or two questions we can. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
My question is like Ajamila and Jadabharata. Can I ask?
Yeah.
Yes. When Ajamila was passed away, he was whole life he was following with other rules, he was doing not as a Brahmin. He was not following a Brahmini things. Okay. At the same time, Bharata was left all his kingdom and he went to the Vanaprastha and he was doing with Lord services and he was doing kirtans and he was listening the words of Lord and all the things.
Yeah.
While the death came for Jadabharata, as a bad person, we know in Bhagavatam it's clearly mentioned, only his son's name he called Narayana. That time Vishnu Dutas has came. At the same time, from his whole kingdom he left and he given to his sons. And Bharata went to the forest. But Bharata, he was took again one more deer. He born as a deer again, and then he born as a Jada Bharata. Then only he got Vaikunta Prapti. But this Ajamila got only the word saying of Narayana. He got Vaikunta Prapti. Vishnu Dutas has came and taken what we know in Bhagavatam. I want to know what is the difference, like whole life we need to be, if we do good things and dharma, and if we do something wrong, like what we call actually.
Yeah. Well, let's do one thing. We can probably take questions. We can end the class, and those who wish to carry on with Prashad, and then we can continue after that. Grantharar Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, entire Gaur Premanandi.